Hi, I'm James, and we're just coming up to the end of my 10th month with Arbtech. And in fact, I've just had my first yearly review. So I thought I'd just have a catch up with you guys and tell you all about how my first year's been going. I had quite an intense time last year because at the end of the bat season where work was very busy, I then suddenly realised that all my assignments were due for the part-time masters I've been doing in ecological surveying. So I had a conversation with Rob and I basically took 2 weeks off and just smashed through. And I think I wrote my master's thesis in 10 days straight, which was not necessarily advisable, but Rob was really supportive of kind of giving me the time I needed to finish off my commitments. And then I got that done, and I've now got my master's there. And since then, I've also then had the free time to be able to tackle a couple of other professional development courses. So I just went on an intensive back course a few days ago down in Devon with Ecology Training UK, which was a really good experience. I've been off on a course with Richard Dodd's Ecology Academy, and we did a week in Swindon, which again was like revising the kind of fundamentals of bat work. And Arbtech itself put on a 2-week course for all our new starters, which I was able to participate in down in Wales just before Christmas. And that was really like going over things with our senior ecologist, Chris Formaggio. And that was really useful. I think, it was just consolidating a lot of my knowledge, going over some of my weaker areas, and dealing with some more kind of rare types of sites that we don't tend to deal with in our day-to-day, like surveying a church or dealing with bridges or areas of ancient woodland, which, in your normal day-to-day, you often just deal with kind of slightly less interesting urban sites. So it was really good to focus on the kind of more difficult type of sites. During bat season, I led some teams and led surveys independently, which was a really good learning experience. I think normally people tend to lead surveys when they've got a bit more experience than I do, so they often put themselves on the most interesting elevations because they're the most confident person. Instead, I was doing the opposite, where I was taking my kind of most senior surveyor and putting them on the interesting elevations, whereas I was taking the least interesting corner of the site, just because I was so focused on kind of leading the survey, making sure I was doing everything right there. I didn't want to be also managing the most interesting ecological side of the site. But that was only initially. I've now led some fairly large projects, and I feel a lot more confident. I'm still getting a lot of support. Like, if I have a difficult site, I can still refer it to our senior staff and get a lot of input there. But it's more, the kind of the urban sites where there's not much bat activity, maybe it's low habitat value, that I feel very confident to handle myself, and I don't need to kind of put it through review or anything. I can just say, well, I know the answer here. I can deal with it. And that has been a good, it's been a good transition. I don't second guess myself as much. But I think I'm still in that process. Like I'm still learning, and people, who are in ecology for 5 years, 10 years, you never really stop learning. There's always a chance you get something new. And I've been on site with very, very experienced people, and we still encounter new, interesting things. It might be the first time you find a particularly protected species on site or an invasive species or something like that. And I think the need for CPD and support is constant, basically. So generally, I did one survey during the day, so I'd do a preliminary roost assessment or something, and then I'd drive back from that. I'd have the afternoon to write up the reports. So I'd be on site in the morning, drive back, write up my reports, have a bit of a break, dinner, do some hobbies, that kind of thing, and then I'd probably lead a survey in the evening, and I'd go off and run a bat emergence survey somewhere in the kind of Devon, Dorset area. And that was normally 3 or 4 days a week of that, and then I'd have a day where I just rested, maybe wrote up a few reports, but generally kind of consolidated because it was very full on, and I think you can't sustain that for 5 days a week. You just need at least a day of a bit more relaxation. Well, you can do the preliminary roost assessments any time of the year. So the surveys where you initially go onto a site and say, well, does this need further work? So I've been doing quite a few of those, but also winter is a phenomenal time to do continuing professional development, to expand your skill sets. So as I said, I spent almost 2 weeks in Wales learning with our senior ecologist staff. I spent a week in Swindon at a course, and then I've attended several conferences and other bits of professional development. So I think it's a really great time to, you end up with more free time, but you're still doing some surveys, and you end up with time to develop yourself and build your skills, which has been really useful. So I've put in my hours and I've got my sign-offs for my level 1 license, so hopefully I'll get that for bats. So the next thing to do would be to acquire another survey license for a different protected species. So I think the species I'm going to go for will be great crested newts, because there's quite a lot in the Oxfordshire area where I'm now based. And I just basically need to go out, shadow Arbtechers, assist with the great crested newt surveys, do eDNA testing, bottle trapping, etc., and then apply for that license. So I'm quite looking forward to that, to be able to branch out on the range of surveys I can do. And beyond that, I can also start looking at other types of ecological surveys, so preliminary ecological assessments. I'm just starting to do those, but my botany is still quite weak, so hopefully I'll go on a botany course. I think I'm booked into one in March, and hopefully that will help improve my knowledge to the point where I can be a bit more confident doing that type of survey as well. Every day is a new challenge. There's quite a lot of variety of work, and I'm taking on new things at the kind of speed I'm comfortable with. So I'm really enjoying that and the independence I have. So I recently moved house. That was very easy. It was very easy to kind of relocate, and the work from home style very much suits me. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it.